What if Kartana was in Gen 1 OU? Oh my lord. Yes, you see that moveset. It's not a joke. Kartana has absolutely no Gen 1 moves with its original moveset from Gen 7. It is just actually awful. No body slam, no hyper beam. It's actually might be the worst moveset I've ever seen. The only thing that can compete with it would be Dual Blade. And even then, Dual Blade's not a fully evolved Pokemon, so you can give it an excuse. But this, it has cut. That's how bad it is. It's honestly, these stats are insane, but if we just went with what you see in front of you, there is no argument for this to be an OU whatsoever. But you know what? I want to have an interesting video. And this isn't the first time I've cheated, so let's give this guy a signature move. Let's just replace Cut with, let's say, Smart Strike. It's a steel move, so you get stabbed, and it's 70 base power, so it's not the most overpowered thing in the world. And there you go. With just a quick little change from me, we have a much more usable Pokemon. I don't think anyone's gonna have a problem with this because, you know, it's a cool Pokemon. And these are stats that are crazy. But maybe not as crazy when you don't have Beast Boost. So, now that that little thing's out of the way, and we have a real Pokemon on our hands, how would Kartana actually do? Now, first off, before anything else, I just want to talk about its base attack stat. I'm pretty sure out of, nowhere, this now has the second highest stat out of all of RBY. Because I'm pretty sure Cloyster's defense at 180 is the second highest, and then the highest is Chansey's HP. It's not by a lot, but you are technically beating Cloyster's defense now. And that's pretty cool. Honestly, Kartana is, I think it's weird to say, but kind of balanced all around. Because it has, honestly, amazing defense. Way better than you would expect from the lightest Pokemon. Or the smallest is one of the two. But you know what? That attack is insane, but man, those defenses, those special defenses are just really bad. Now, 59 does not look the greatest, and it's not. I just had a video where I said base 60 is below average. But it looks bad, but also, it might as well be 60. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But what is a big deal is your special defense. Friendly reminder that in Gen 1 custom games, if it's a new Pokemon, there's technically not a special stat. You still use special attack and special defense. And in many ways, that's still preferred. It absolutely keeps things more balanced that way. And this is a good example. Because you have the Steel type, but with only 31 in special defense, you take a lot of damage, and even from resisted moves. Critical Psychics and Thunderbolt will probably kill you. And it would kind of be the case if it had 59 special, but still, I don't think you want a significantly bulkier Kartana. And I would say that an extra 20 in its special defense would make a pretty big difference. Another thing that's really annoying, kind of has the walking wake syndrome. OG fans know what I'm talking about. It has to do with its speed. 109 is great, fantastic for crit rates. But being exactly 1 point slower than Tauros is incredibly annoying. Especially since Tauros has every reason in the world to start specking in Fire Blast. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. But on the bright side, since you have a good speed stat, that means the Razor Leaf is an auto crit. So while 59 special attack might not look like the best in the world, you're only using Razor Leaf on super effective things, such as Rhydon, Cloyster, Starmie, etc. And trust me, it hits pretty hard. Rhydon, as you can expect, is an OHKO, but Starmie, Slowbro, and Cloyster are all 2-hit KO. So you are able to actually fight them 1v1. And for everything else, honestly with Stab, Smart Strike on its own is just insane damage. But you go for Sword Stance. And just to go over how insane just one Sword Stance is, you use one Sword Stance and Kartana's attack goes up to 920. And keep in mind in RBY, the max for your stats is 999. Yeah, so if you're like only like 79 away, or not 79, like oh no, that's about it. I think like 79 for my max attack. That's pretty insane. And you can kill so many things, assuming you even need that. Because already with like max attack, you are at 461. So for many other things, you're already about as strong as a Pokemon that already used Sword Stance. Granted, with Cut, you couldn't really take advantage of it, but Smart Strike is a very different story. And another good thing about Smart Strike is the fact that it's like Swift, where it doesn't check accuracy. So you don't even have to worry about the 1-256 glitch. And that's pretty cool. Now, I think I've already gone over the weaknesses when it comes to special attacks. Things like Alakazam's Psychic with a crit or Jolteon's crit Thunderbolt. These are pretty annoying and you will probably die. And along with that, I think in general you really hate Paralysis. And that's because, due to your low HP stat, for physical attacks you could take them very well. But still, I don't think you want to risk like losing a turn or to like take a bunch of chip from different angles. Because if you take chip from different Pokemon, you could sleep, but it's also not too hard for this to get worn down. Now, thankfully, you do have rest, and for special attacks, do not bother, you're gonna die. However, even though your HP isn't really the best, thanks to your very high defense stat, you're actually able to tank physical attacks very well. Like, from both Tauros and Snorlax's Earthquake, you only take 20%. That is very usable. Very doable. Granted, there's probably a better move you would wish you would put on there. But for now, yeah, that'll get the job done. Very easily. So overall, Kartana, I don't want to say its stats are too much for RBY, but it's almost there. But I do think that the HP and the special bulk is enough to keep it in check. Granted, Smart Strike might be a little too much, but hey, at least I didn't give this thing Hyper Beam. And the reason why it doesn't have Hyper Beam, well, for one, in Gen 7, a lot of Pokemon in their debut generation, they just don't have the... They just have the moves that you would expect from RBY, like Hyper Beam and Body Slam. I think they just weren't TMs at the time. But another reason is that, obviously, once you get to Gen 7, there's no longer any, like, no longer any physical special moves. So, you're not having to give this thing Hyper Beam, because it's been, like, over a decade since Hyper Beam was physical. So, it makes sense. Like, why would you even bother giving this thing Hyper Beam when it doesn't have Giga Impact? And one could say that I should have just given a Hyper Beam, since if something can learn Giga Impact, obviously, like, it would learn it back then. I don't go over too much with the lore, because I don't really like to think there's too much to this. But I think of these less as, what if this Pokemon always exists in RBY? And I more so think of it like, what if this went through a, like, ultra wormhole and ended up in Kanto? It's more like that. So, like, with that sort of way of thinking, you don't really give it new moves, because it's more so like, the moves it already had, you just gotta transport it back. But I don't think too much about it, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just get on with the replays, because with how fast it is and how strong it is, as you can imagine, while obviously it's significantly better as a late game cleaner, it doesn't do half bad in just 1v1 replays. Now, I didn't bother with Fire Blast, because as you can imagine, that just kills. Though to be honest, Tauros might be running at a lot more. If you're only doing 20% to Kartana, then yeah, Kartana can afford to use a Sword Stance, no problem. And once it does, that's 2-hit KOing Tauros easily. Granted, Tauros did get one unlucky there with no crits. But at the same time, Kartana basically has the exact same crit rate. One could argue you don't even bother going for Sword Stance. You're already hitting super hard, way harder than Tauros is, with Tauros' crit rate. Just go straight for Smart Strike, and then you're probably going to win. Now, next up, I have Snorlax, and for Snorlax, there might be an argument to go for Sword Stance at the beginning. And that's because specifically there are Reflect Wax sets. Would these be more popular with Kartana in the format? Possibly, but at the same time, I think just specking Fire Buzz on Snorlax is probably more likely. Doesn't matter too much either way, because Reflect is not really enough to break Kartana. And a big part of that is because of Rest. Because of Rest, Snorlax, no matter what, can never break Kartana. The only way it can maybe break Kartana is if it has both Reflect Up, and you have Body Slam specifically, and you paralyze it. But even then, like, the turns you have in the fish for paralysis are just, you're doing absolutely nothing to Kartana, which leaves it free to go for Sword Stance or to go for Smart Strike. And obviously, Kartana has a great crit rate, so maybe Reflect isn't consistent in the first place, because Kartana can fish for crits no problem. And if it gets a crit, Snorlax is probably screwed. Like, I don't see really, surviving that at all. So we're already 2 for 2, and this is a great start. I didn't even mention it, but the typing for Kartana is just amazing. You're not weak to ground, which nullifies one of the main weaknesses of Steel, and that Steel typing gives you a resistance to both normal and psychic. Even though psychic moves hurt pretty bad, your Steel typing is the only reason they don't destroy you. Resisting normal is huge, and it's sort of the same thing with ice. Thankfully, you're just bulky enough to where stab ice moves don't kill you, but they definitely do a lot of damage, and the only reason that you're not O-code is because of that Steel typing. So yeah, it does a lot of favors. And mostly being weak to fire is also helping a lot too. And here we have Chansey. I think it's a range between a 2-hit KO when it comes to both. Or no, with the 2-hit KO, that's without any Sword Stance. I'm not sure why the crit did so little. I don't know what the damage range is for Chansey here. Doesn't matter too much. You could do a lot of damage with Ice Beam, and you can paralyze it. But also, Chansey is not risking a crit from Kartana. Or granted, a crit might be fine like you saw there, but I think most of the time Chansey's probably screwed, so you don't risk that. And then for Zam, this might be one where Kartana wins most of the time, because I guess there's really nothing stopping him from just going for Smart Strike and spamming until you get a crit. But for this one, I used both Reflect, and obviously Zam got opportunities to go for Thunder Wave, Reflect, Recover. So it's able to fish to where you can, get full paralysis, which in turn, you can see how much Psychic does. So this is probably my fault. While it's true that Zam has the potential to kill Kartana, it probably makes more sense to consider this a good matchup. Zam probably doesn't risk it. And then Cloyster. You could definitely risk it, but it's pretty dangerous. Razor Wave 2-hit KOs you. At the same time, you hit 2-hit KO Kartana, and you can freeze or you can get a crit. So it's anyone's game, really. And technically, Blizzard's more accurate than Razor Wave, so yeah, that's something. What isn't something is Executor. Mega Drain is quad resisted, so you don't have to worry about a crit from Mega Drain, even if you get unlucky. And then Explosion and Psychic are also not doing much. You completely wall Executor completely, and there's nothing they can do. And Gengar's not doing much better. The best move is Nightshade, but you can't kill with Nightshade. So Psychic and Thunderbolt aren't doing as well because they don't have Stab. So yeah, you just beat Gengar, and there's not much they can really do about it. Jolteon is an interesting story. Critical Thunderbolts and Paralysis are really bad, and because of its electric typing, it resists Smart Strike. But because of your low defenses, it's still it's either a 2-hit KO or it's a range. Either way, the matchup is surprisingly even. And there might be enough nuance to where Jolteon stays in OU, but I do not know for sure. But I definitely think that new resistance to Smart Strike is huge. And then for Jinx, they're obviously faster, but I just wanted to see. And no, Blizzard doesn't kill. But it doesn't matter either way, because Smart Strike just does a crap ton of damage. Kartana honestly might be a decent anti-lead if you think they're gonna lead with, like, Jinx or Chansey. But I wouldn't really use it that way. But it's a thought. And right on. Yeah, there's nothing that's really going on here. Right on just dies the Razor Leaf. Let's just move on. And as we move on, let's witness Slowbro. Slowbro technically has speed control because you can paralyze it. But that's about it. While theoretically Amnesia into Surf, even if it's just one boost, could seriously mess up Kartana, Razor Leaf being a 2-hit KO kind of puts a damper on things. You would have to be extremely lucky with paralysis. But even then, I'm pretty sure since Kartana is a grass Pokemon, I think even with one Amnesia boost, Kartana can probably survive it. And yeah, when you put it like that, Slowbro has basically no win cons whatsoever. We're almost done, and now we have a Pokemon that's mostly useless with 90% of its moves. There's only one move that Starmie regularly uses that matters, and that's Blizzard. And with Blizzard, it hits really hard, and Recover and Thunderwave are great tools, but Razor Wave's still a 2-hit KO on you. And what's even worse is that it does more than 50%. So while in theory, you can always just paralyze and then fish for Razor Leaf, the fact that Razor Leaf always out-damages Recover, it means that Starmie is on a timer, so it can't just comfortably fish for paralysis. If Kartana gets super lucky, then Starmie can lose the long game. So it's very dangerous, and not everything's guaranteed. What about when the Starmie's also paralyzed? In that case, then Kartana might actually win that. And last but not least, we got Zapdos. Being initially faster than Zapdos is actually a big deal. And because of your high defense, even though that's resisted, it's actually better for the Zapdos player to go for Thunderbolt. And thankfully, due to that electric typing, you're not being destroyed by Sword Stance boosted Smart Strike. But as you can see there, it's absolutely possible to lose the fight. Albeit very close, and Kartana probably gets Revenge Coat anyways. But overall, here's the list. And yeah, outside Pokemon that are in OU, Kartana doesn't have a single bad matchup. It's doing great. And granted, that was from the bias hook from me, giving it a steel move, but y'all gotta admit, it made the video more interesting. And given that Cut would have been its like main attacking move, like if I didn't give it a stab move, you would have just never seen Kartana at all. Like even in the lower tiers, like I don't even know what tier you would put Kartana in. The stats are insane for lower tiers, but having Cut as your only physical move is just that bad. Tell me where you think Kartana would be in the comments if I just gave it its regular RBY moveset. And also let me know if it does better with net decks. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.